Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It'll be fun.
Hey, like the new intro? I kind of do. I dig it personally. Thank you, honey, for making that intro. I really do appreciate that because I really didn't need one. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Today's date, November 14th, 2020, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. On How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, we are still working on our language, but sometimes cuss words will fly. Sorry. And sometimes we may show things of a graphic nature, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Now, for that being said, guys, it has been an interesting week. An interesting week because we went from literally a week, a few days of staring directly at every news cycle, wondering how the election's going to go. And now the election has been all but taken care of. Now we're worried about Operation Big Baby Won't Leave the Nest. And unfortunately, I'm talking about Dorito.
Won't go to a lockdown. I will not go. This administration will not be going to a lockdown. Hopefully the whatever happens in the future, who knows which administration it will be. I guess time will tell.
So he's obviously still refusing to concede. Did not take, as I said, any questions from reporters. But what's your response to what we just heard? Because there was a nuance there. It was a bit different than what he's been tweeting, rigged election, fraud, all that kind of stuff, saying he would be in the White House for another 4 years. He stopped short this time.
Yeah, he almost caught himself. The next thing he should have said, the new administration, the next administration, he caught himself. He did some Trumpisms and tried to move on. It seems like he's finally beginning to move through the stages of grief. He got stuck in denial for a very, very long time. Maybe he's coming to the end of that and is going to move to the other stages. He's embarrassing himself. He's embarrassing the country. If I were a Republican, I would be frustrated with this behavior because he is risking the health and safety of the American people. You got to prepare for a transition. Every soldier, sailor, Air Force person, Marine around the world is in danger because our government is not being prepared for literally January.
Because Governor Kasich, the results of the election are abundantly clear to everyone who's looking. How stunning is it to see the president standing there in the Rose Garden so many days after Election Day, refusing to acknowledge reality?
It's like Alice in Wonderland, Wolf. And even people who are very strong Trump supporters are just shaking their head and say, let's get on with it. And I very much appreciated what Van just said about the national security issue. I will tell you, I talked to Senator Langford from Oklahoma yesterday and complimented him because he was one of the first to come out and say, They need to be able to get the national security briefing. And at the same time, of course, the inability for him to speed up the transition means it hinders economic recovery. And it also probably hinders, I'll bet it also hinders the distribution of the vaccine. So it's just crazy. I wonder how many people around him are saying, oh, yeah, you won, because, there's just no place for this. It's unacceptable and it's embarrassing for our country. But he's getting over it. I think Van's right, and
Let's try it again. We like to think he's right, but the thing about this is, like I said before, Biden at this point won almost, I won't say a landslide victory because, 306 to 232 electoral count after all said and done. It is obviously he is the winner of the election. For Trump, for some odd reason, believes that, well, that's not true because I claimed these states before the votes were counted. And yet, everybody in his camp believes that Trump wants to sit here and say, no, I won because I claimed it first. That's how it works, okay? I claimed it first. I claim Pennsylvania, I claim Texas, I claim Florida. I should be able to claim the presidency. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. You lost. And the funny part about it is about the electoral count. That is the same electoral count Trump had back in 2016. Look it up. It's amazing. He had the same, if you want to talk poetic justice, Biden had the same electoral count that Trump had back in 2016. 306 votes. And yet now he is sitting in a position to where I am not going to leave, okay? I am going to stay here. Why? The people love me. You need me. Because everything would fall apart without me. He really does believe this. And even more so, he is still talking as if there is going to be a second term. That is the part to me. If you want to talk about something so brazen and so asinine, it is because he still believes that he's still going to get a second term. There are still some people out there, I call them Trump cultist people, who still sit there and believe that Trump will get a second term. And why? Because Trump has been claiming voter fraud. He's been claiming election fraud this entire time. He has been trying to spew the rhetoric of just saying, these people, they're out to get me. This election's already rigged. I already know I'm going to lose. And if I lose, it's because I'm rigged. It's honestly enough the man doesn't have yet, but what about all the states you won? Is the election still rigged? And that's the thing I wanted to point out. Number one, if the Democrats wanted to rig the election, how the hell is Mitch McConnell reelected? Number one. Number two, how were you able to win so many red states? Granted, you were going to win this. I used to say the South was his. I used to say Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina. That entire region, I used to say was all red. I was proven wrong. Because who knew Georgia? Georgia flipped. Georgia flipped in states. Arizona used to be Republican, flipped in state, flipped to a blue state. North Carolina, who knew? Flipped to a blue state. And again, these are all the things that I still say. I used to say the South will always vote Republican. I'm not going to say Tennessee will do that. Let me be completely honest. Elmo could be running for Republicans, could be running for a Republican office, and Tennessee would still vote for Elmo. Not all of us, because I live in Tennessee, but still, they've always voted red. And so it is amazing that he is claiming voter fraud. And there's no amount of it, even more so that he's got his personal attorney, William Barr, looking into it.
The Attorney General, Bill Barr, right? This memo comes out authorizing federal prosecutors to look into substantial allegations of voting irregularities if there is clear and apparently credible, allegations of irregularities. There's a lot of kind of talking around in circles here. There is no evidence at this point of any widespread fraud. So what do you make of Barr doing this right now?
Well, I'm sure it's going to be widely criticized. He does say in the latter portion of that brief memo that nothing within that memo should be interpreted as him thinking that there are, or him saying that there are credible complaints thus far, but rather he wants to clarify what the role should be. He says normally, and I'm putting this in lay terms, Aaron, normally it's the state's responsibility, but he wants it made clear that with regard to a federal election, if there are clear and credible complaints, They've got authorization to look into them. That's what he wanted to allow people to do.
Okay, so Michael, and I also just want to be clear to put an exclamation point on what I said here as I introduced you and Fernita. The Trump campaign is only kind of pointing at some places, right? The places where they're behind to say that they think there's some kind of fraud. Not saying anything about Arizona, right, where it's getting narrower and narrower and narrower in the president's favor. They don't think those late counting votes are any problem.
Well, further evidence to your point, take a look at the federal action that you referred to a moment ago that was filed this afternoon in Pennsylvania's Middle District. That's the federal court that sits in Harrisburg. I've just spent time digesting the 85-page complaint, and it is the Trump campaign against the Secretary of State, Kathy Boockvar, who viewers have seen on CNN routinely, regularly, and select boards of election, right? In other words, it's Allegheny County, it's Philadelphia County, and it's a handful of other counties, but not all 67 counties in the Commonwealth. So it's the Trump campaign saying, we're concerned about what went on in these particular counties, but to your point, not everywhere.
Yes, to their point, not everywhere. Not everywhere being that only in the counties that apparently Trump believes that if he got those, he would have won. Y'all, there is no way to sit there and say this. Yes, William Barr is the president's personal attorney. He's supposed to be the U.S. Attorney General, but unfortunately, he's too busy trying to protect the president. And even more so, trying to protect the president because he's throwing up every Hail Mary he can think of. Because for somebody who says that he's trying to, who says the election was rigged against him, he is trying to rig himself to stay there. Now, keep in mind, the good news is we don't have to deal with this man until another month or so. Well, month and a half, really, because January is not too far off from this, not too far off from now. So we only have to deal with Dorito until January, and then I hope, it is my hope, that we get to see him escort out of the White House. And trust me, it's amazing where everybody thinks, well, what happens if he's going to stay? I forgot who said it. I truly forgot who said it. But the thing about it is, here's the one thing about the Marines and the Secret Service. They have no problem escorting someone out, even if it's somebody who has got the notification they lost their job and are still there. So I'm not saying it'll make for good television to see Dorito get thrown out, but let's also be honest, guys. The reason that he's trying to fight so hard is because, I've said this before, the seat of the president is a shield. For example, if you have, say, for instance, campaign finance laws, possible campaign violation finance laws, a sexual harassment suit, IRS wants to go over your taxes, the SEC wants to go over your dealings as far as international. At the same time, it is clearly evident that you owe everybody. Yeah. The presidency is a shield, and he's about to lose it. But also, that being said, guys, like I said, we are going to be there. And of course, like I said about the election, there are going to be some recounts, and this recount is basically 2 Senate races that are happening in Georgia. For all those that don't know, so right now there's going to be 2 runoffs between two groups of people. These 2 groups of people are running for Senate offices. And the reason why Senate offices are honestly, why this is major, is because the Democrats need this in order to actually get majority of the Senate. Now, we all know Mitch McConnell right now. Mitch McConnell, as it stands, still could be the Senate majority leader for the next Congress. Now, here's the thing. If these 2 races, one between Kenny Loeffler and Democratic incumbent Reverend Raphael Warnock, and then he also won David Perdue and wanted to be Senator, Democrat John Ossoff, both of those have runoffs that are happening very soon. Hence why all the attention right now is still on Georgia. Simply put, because of the simple fact of the matter is these 2 Senate races can honestly determine the Senate right now, because for right now the House itself is still under Democratic control. The Senate right now, I actually believe it's tied. I'd have to double check that, but I'm almost certain that the Senate control, as it stands for Senate control as it stands for right now, I want to say it's tied, but let me just double check for a second just to make sure. Okay, I was wrong. Currently, as it stands, the Democratic House, Democrats have 48 seats in Senate, and the Republicans right now have 50. So, if it makes you wonder if it's that evident of how dead set it truly is right now, how crucial it is for this final race in the Senate in Georgia to happen, because the Democrats need these two. They need these two to make sure that Mitch McConnell doesn't have a majority. Now, here's the thing. This is the reason why it is very crucial about this tie. Now, if it's a tie, according to the Constitution, if the Senate has equal senators on both sides, the vice president casts the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. Which at this point, we already know who the vice president will be. So that's the reason why it is crucial for all those that are wondering why there's still so much attention on Georgia. It's because these two Senate races, which we are going to talk about as it comes along, is very important. Why? Because we don't need Mitch McConnell again for another 4 years. Mitch McConnell, by himself solely, was the roadblock for almost going on 3,000 plus bills that were pushed through Congress. 3,000 bills that were pushed from the House, and they never reached the Senate floor. That is the ability of the majority leader in the Senate. If anything from these last 4 years have taught you anything, Republicans, all they needed was the Senate and the presidency. That tells you off the bat how much power that they actually have in that position. And yes, the House itself does have checks and balances, so does the Senate. But the problem is with the Senate, if the Senate and the presidency are online, then they can't overrule the House. In the same way that if Democrats, if they get it the way they want to, having the House majority, having tied in the Senate with future VP Kamala Harris, which I'm happy to say that the future VP, I'm sorry, let's not say future VP, Vice President elect, because they like saying that. They like saying that when black people get office. Vice President elect Kamala Harris will be the tiebreaker if in the event that the Democrats do pull this off and honestly do vote blue again. Now, I said beforehand, I'm surprised that Georgia did vote blue, considering that Stacey Abrams and many others, activists within Georgia, were actively turning out, getting people to vote, getting people registered to vote, and then getting them out to vote, which is the reason why Georgia, in the end went to Biden. So again, like I said before, I want to say that Black Youth Minority Group really did have a hand in that, but now I wonder if they'll do it again for these two senators, just because, like I said, that race is crucial, because this will determine if Mitch McConnell has power or not. Because in a tied Senate, like I said before, the tiebreaker goes to the vice president, which is literally the president over the Senate, if you want to be honest. But we'll see. But we'll cover it as it goes from there. Beyond that, guys. Like I said, Dorito's just, going after everybody. Dorito's like a king that knows he's about to be dethroned, but yet he's going to spit fire at everybody. He actually went after the president, Andrew Cuomo, for saying, we have a vaccine coming. It's going to be widely available, but you won't let us produce it. I'm not kidding. That's what he said.
April, the vaccine will be available to the entire general population, with the exception of places like New York State, where, for political reasons, the governor decided to say, and I don't think it's good politically. I think it's very bad from a health standpoint. But he wants to take his time on the vaccine. He doesn't trust where the vaccine's coming from. These are coming from the greatest companies anywhere in the world, greatest labs in the world. But he doesn't trust the fact that it's this White House, this administration. So we won't be delivering it to New York until we have authorization to do so. And that pains me to say that. This is a very successful, amazing vaccine at 90% and more. But so the Governor Cuomo, will have to let us know when he's ready for it. Otherwise, we can't be delivering it to a state that won't be giving it to its people immediately. And I know the people of New York very well. I know they want it. So the governor will let us know when he's ready. He's had some very bad editorials recently about this statement and what's happened with respect to nursing homes and his handling of nursing homes. And I hope he doesn't handle this as badly as he's handled the nursing homes. But we're ready to provide it as soon as they let us know that they'll actually use it. And again, it's a very safe and a great vaccine.
Okay, a few things here. Number one, it's like I know the people of New York so well. Really, that's why you moved to Florida? Okay, that's one. Two, it is amazing that Trump is taking credit for Pfizer's vaccine. That's the one that he's actually talking about. But Pfizer wasn't actually a part of Operation Warp Speed. They were not taking funding from Trump. To do this vaccine, which they are now saying that they are getting into the final stages, saying that the effectiveness of this vaccine is over 90%, and things of that nature, in which Trump and Mike Pence and everybody else are saying, look how Operation Warp Speed was such a success. We helped it. No, Pfizer says you didn't do shit. And excuse me. And now it is amazing that, of course, he's going after Andrew Cuomo, and Andrew Cuomo has sat there and said this: Trump, I don't trust a fucking word you say. And that's exactly what he's saying. Even more so, Andrew Cuomo actually wants to go ahead and say, I don't trust you. I'm having my own board of doctors and scientists look into this. If they say it's okay, then great. If not, then no, I'm not going to trust you. And could you blame Governor Cuomo of New York saying that he doesn't trust Trump? I don't trust Trump. Matter of fact, I still don't trust any vaccine that says it's ready by now, because like I've said before about vaccines and diseases, it is very, very unheard of that a pandemic and the cure or vaccine is actually achieved in the same year of the pandemic. I've said it before, and I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Most doctors, most research doctors and virologists and scientists have all sat there and said it can actually take up to 2 to 4 years for a vaccine to be developed. It can take another couple of years to be effective. It actually can take up to a decade to actually see the results from that vaccine. So for us to actually expect a cure within about, now we're going on between 6 months or so since the pandemic hit, and expect a vaccine by now, I would question it. But again, like I said before, we all want to, the need to going back to normalcy is so apparent that any news about a vaccine or saying that a cure is coming is almost like gospel. And I think we need to take it with a grain of salt. And again, do what we should have done from the first time. Listen to scientists and not people who believe their freedoms are threatened just because they won't wear a fucking mask. Aside from that, guys, like I said before, Trump is, like I said, going after everybody, including Fox News. Yes, that's the funny thing about Fox News. We can finally say that the honeymoon is over, because he has posted this Thursday. He posted dozens of tweets about Fox News, saying that it's about its coverage throughout his presidency and also about his election defeat, where he sat there and said, very sad to watch this happen, but they forgot what made them successful, what got them there. They forgot the golden goose. The biggest difference between the 2016 election and 2020 was Fox News. I've always found it funny where, of course, we in the previous videos I played in the podcast, you heard Fox News sucks. And keep in mind, that's his cult. Now, Fox News, don't get me wrong, has never been a shining beacon of prospective journalism. It never has, it never will be. But I have to give it credit because they actually their reporters really called out the facts. I mean, when they said that's not true, this such and thus this happened, they turned around and sat there and said, well, that's not true. And hear me out. A Fox News, I always call them state news because for 8 years they touted Obama as the devil, but for Trump's 3 out of his 4 years, they touted Trump as a hero. And now in the election, when it's all said and done, and it's obviously he's going to be exiting the White House, Fox News decides to break up the honeymoon, if you will. I find that deliciously irony. That's irony right there. The same people that held you up are the same people who are now calling out your bullshit. That to me is funny as hell. With that also being said, guys, like I said before, it's going to be interesting to watch because now, like I said, Trump is spiraling. And he's only going to keep spiraling until January. And trust me, he is going to do everything that he can, and his cabinet's going to do everything that he can, that they can, to go ahead and make sure that there are some things that still stay in place. And unfortunately, Biden and Kamala are really going to be doing a lot of their presidency, undoing everything that the fat orange guy did. But switching gears for a second, guys, we do have some information in the Ahmaud Arbery case regarding the bond, and I'm glad that the judge had some common sense.
And next to the father and son accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery as he jogged through that Georgia neighborhood, making their case today to be let out on bond. The attorney for one of them saying this was not a hate crime. Ahmaud Arbery's mother and her reaction tonight. Here's ABC's Adrian Bankert.
Tonight, attorneys for two of the men accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery seeking the release of the father and son on bond. Greg and Travis McMichael appearing virtually due to COVID, with family and friends coming forward as character witnesses. The pair seen chasing Arbery before Travis fatally shot the 25-year-old after spotting him running in their Brunswick, Georgia neighborhood in what they told police was an attempted citizen's arrest of a suspected burglar. Arbery's mother today outside the courtroom said she doubts they have any regrets.
Ahmaud was allowed to go home. So them going home would be totally unfair.
Travis McMichael's friends testifying he is remorseful. His attorney citing his service in the Coast Guard, saying this was no hate crime.
We have substantial evidence that on the day in question, Mr. Arbery was not a jogger. He was there for nefarious purposes.
The prosecution revealing an old text message sent by Travis McMichael to a friend using a racial slur. That friend saying the text was not meant to be racist at all.
Now, David, the McMichaels' attorneys are asking the judge to reject the indictment's malice murder charge. They're saying it was written in such a way that it actually charges two crimes in one count. The McMichaels and a third man who recorded the killing have all pled not guilty. The bond hearing resumes tomorrow morning. David?
All right, Adrian Bankert with us.
Okay, so with that being said, guys, of course, the bond was denied for the father and son that did murder Ahmaud Arbery, and let's be honest, it was a murder. And amazingly so, it's the language that they're saying that it's not a hate crime. Why is it always white people who are racist will be the first ones to say it's not a hate crime? You had it on video. You followed a black man and decided to do a citizen's arrest, or claimed you decided to do a citizen's arrest. You fought with said black man and you killed him on video. And then turned around and heard you say the N-word on video after the death. That's not a hate crime? Okay, that's interesting. And even more so where they try to say, well, Travis McMichael, he can't be racist. He served in the Coast Guard. You kidding me? There's a bunch of people that served in the armed forces and they were racist. Being in the armed forces doesn't mean that you're not racist. It just means that you're a trained racist. I don't mean trained racist as far as your beliefs. I mean trained as far as in the arts of combat and things of that nature. But hell, there's plenty of racist people that serve. That doesn't mean that. I mean, that was the thing that honestly kills me. How in the world could you sit there and say, well, he can't be racist because he served? That's your character witness. And typical countering of lawyering, guys. That the lawyer, when they're arguing for the defense, they have to, unfortunately, I like to call it, they're basically poisoning the plaintiff, making them like, well, he wasn't jogging through there. He was looking for mischief. Yes, because a black person running down a populated neighborhood is always looking for mischief. And after all the times I've been around Tennessee and I see white guys running around their shirts off, the true crime is you should be really running around with your shirt off because nobody wants to see all that. You're literally offending my eyes, but you don't see me doing a citizen's arrest and killing you for it. So it is amazing now that they're trying to stand and say Ahmaud Arbery was this and that. And like I said before, guys, I know it from a personal standpoint. When a black person is killed and a white person is actually put on trial, in every case, they have always tried to show that the black person who was killed, that their character was in question, as if their character led to their demise, as if whatever about their character led to their death. Not the fact of the hands of another individuals and their actions, but the person that was killed, because somehow, being black and somehow, in their past or their actions have led to their death. Lawyer 101. And I forgot it's called either. It's really called vilifying the victim is really what it is. But I forgot there's an actual legal lawyer term for it. I just forgot what it was this time, but I call it vilifying the victim. I didn't see you guys actually quoted. Thank you, Carla. Hey, Mr. Tim, how you doing? Simone, thank you for watching. Yep, Vaughn, that's what they do. As Tarek said, I'm white and I say so. Yep. And he goes, that is a t-shirt, trained racist. I believe that. And like I said, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't look down and see if there was comments. I apologize. But thank you all for watching so far. But even more so, there was another case of and forgive me if I mispronounce the name. I was trying to actually get it right. But Dredazon Reed, for all those that don't know the story, was shot and killed by an Indianapolis police officer back in May. And the story for all those that don't know, he was, high-speed pursuit foot chase. This was actually days after Ahmaud Arbery's death, where the grand jury who looked into this against the police officer decided they called it a no bill, which means that there is not enough evidence to indict or accuse the officer of a crime, which was frustrating because as the story was going on, was just that he was driving recklessly. There was a black officer that was chasing him, which eventually went from a high-speed chase to a foot chase. It then eventually, according to the officer's standpoint, that Mr. Reed did actually turn around and was reaching to his waist. That is when the officer actually tased him and he fell. And then after that, gunshots were fired. Even though the officer said it's not clear who shot first, but the officer, the person that was over Heron is actually the attorney, the special prosecutor that was in the case. I apologize. But he says that the officer fired 13 shots. According to the coroner's report, that Reed was shot in the left shoulder, in the leg, in the head, and the back of the neck. Now, of course, he did, die from those injuries. Now, beforehand, like I said before, look, I understand that, from the looks of this things, yeah, he did lead him on a high-speed chase, which did eventually go to a foot chase. I still say that he had to die for it. Because, again, if the officer involved fired 13 shots, 13 shots is just, how can I put this in so many ways? Questionable. It is questionable. Why does an officer have to fire 13 shots against an assailant who's running away from them? Again, this is the reason why I sit there. This is the reason why I sit there and say that the officer's question should always be in action. But I always find it funny because it just reminds me of Breonna Taylor all over again. That I don't understand why someone in the grand jury is not saying, "Whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I understand the guy was running. I understand the guy led you on a high-speed chase. I understand that the guy led you on a foot chase. But can I ask, why did you feel the need to pump 13 shots at him?" I mean, it's almost on the lines of why in the world is no one asking this question? Because to me, that would be the biggest thing, is why in the world an officer is firing multiple shots at this one intendant trying to hit him and apparently failing. But again, like I said before, this is why I sit there and say, until someone can tell me differently, I want to know how officers have so much problems bringing in a black person alive, and yet you can have armed white people shooting at police and yet being brought in safely. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, we just had this. I mean, this is not. I mean, even in Philadelphia, where again, certain circumstances, the man with the knife was shot multiple times. Even though the police had him outnumbered 2-1, they did not have tasers. They did not have non-lethal options, but they made sure they had a gun. again, I asked this question of why is it so hard for the police to bring in black people when you can bring in armed white people who have actually killed people in front of them with no issue. But again, not surprising. Even more not surprising about another black teen that was found dead in Louisiana.
Sad story of a Louisiana teen who was found dead. Kawan Charles's family is desperately searching for answers tonight as to how he went missing and what ultimately led to his death. Our Elwin Lopez has more on the investigation now underway tonight into what happened and a family's cry for justice.
As a rural Louisiana town of Baldwin mourns the death of a teenage boy, tonight the family of Kawan Charles is demanding answers.
We will get justice for Kawan.
We believe that if he had been of a different color, that this has been taken a lot more seriously, and we would not be talking today. About 13 days have gone by with no leads. 13 days have gone by with no answers. 13 days have gone by without an official cause of death given to the family. This family deserves that. Bob needs to be laid to rest.
On October 30th, the teen went missing from his home. Days later, the family says his body was found in a sugarcane field about 20 miles away in Iberia Parish. What happened between when he was found and the day he went missing is still under investigation. While an autopsy report has not been released yet, Kawan's cousin described a photo too graphic for us to show.
On the left side of his face, there is like a knot. On the right side, there's like a incision. And then like around his mouth area, like majority of his lips is gone, like he has been tortured.
The medical examiner's office says a full report can take up to 12 weeks. Yet the local sheriff's department calls the circumstances around his death, quote, suspicious. They say they have interviewed multiple people and are combing through physical evidence.
They're parents. I'm a parent myself. I'm concerned about, I would be concerned about the death of my child. Right. Naturally, emotions run deep, but we have to deal with facts. And it takes time for some of this evidence to come forward because it takes a while for toxicology to come back.
The ACLU is now demanding a full independent investigation into the teen's death. The sheriff's department says it is providing the family with updates on the case and is urging anyone with information to come forward. For ABC News Live.
Yeah, we find the events surrounding this young man's death suspicious. You think? I mean, again, this reminds me of that case in Atlanta. I think it was in Georgia, where of course a young man was found wrapped up in a gym in a gym mat, and yet the case was closed, which thankfully it's being reopened and being investigated. But again, this is the one thing I keep on saying about this entire situation is just that our kids are coming up missing, and even more so how they're found. And I keep on thinking to myself this entire time, this is the reason why I say we have to start looking out for our people more. Just because we're coming up missing, at the same time we're coming up dead, and then we're coming up with our bodies. And let's be honest, the way the relative described the death of the body of the 15-year-old is almost like Emmett Till. It is almost Emmett Till-esque. Think about that. It ain't been that long since that event has happened. And yet we're seeing signs of that in 2020, we're not too far from 2021, because let's be honest, 2020 has been a shit year. But with that being said, again, the simple fact of the matter is we have to be more vigilant. We have to be, like I said, even now, I still was like, hey, where you going? I need to know where you're at. And, the things we used to nag, our parents used to nag us about, well, I need to know where you're going. At least call me and let me know when you get there. The things we used to nag about now are now becoming essential for black people. And yes, I say black people because we are targeted. You don't believe, I'm like, trust me, but all Trump did, he did not start this cultist, extreme right, right-wing bullshit. He didn't start it. He's just simply the black light, and America is an old couch. That's all it is. And so we definitely have to be more vigilant. And I hope that family does get answers. And like I said, if there's a person involved, then honestly they need to be shot. I mean, that's just me. But with that being said, guys, like I said, moving right along. Zuckerberg covers with Facebook, because I know you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube right now, which I thank you for. But I knew Facebook was a little bit messed up and a little bit of a hypocrite. Even more so, even in the next story, where apparently you can say some crazy stuff and not get banned.
We have seen some pretty scary and frankly dangerous language being used online as the fallout from this election continues. And it's not just from faceless, anonymous accounts on platforms like Facebook. These messages are coming from the very top, very prominent and influential people. In fact, former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon said in a live video yesterday that was posted on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter that FBI Director Christopher Wray and Dr. Anthony Fauci should both be beheaded and that their heads should be put on spikes outside the White House. Also, Donald Trump Jr., the president's son, said it was time for his father to go to total war over this election. Now, platforms like Facebook and Twitter are trying to crack down on this type of speech. Some are doing better than others. Twitter has been labeling these posts. In the case of Steve Bannon, they shut down his account entirely. But Facebook took 10 hours yesterday, 10 hours on Thursday, to remove the video of Steve Bannon calling for the FBI director and Dr. Anthony Fauci to be beheaded. That video had been viewed 200,000 times, almost 200,000 times before Facebook removed it. So certainly some very worrying language we're seeing online as things continue, the fallout continues from this election.
Crazy, isn't it? Think about that. You can literally say some crazy stuff, like actually asking for the beheading of two national figures, and Facebook sat there and says, we'll think about it. I mean, it's not really hateful speech, but we'll think about it. And I know a lot of people right now who will sit there and say, wait a second, I played one music video and I got Facebook banned, or I said something about the president and I got banned, or some guys even sit there and say I showed a very provocative picture and I got banned. But Steve Bannon can sit there and ask for the heads of the FBI and our expert on flu and diseases in the U.S. He can ask for them to be beheaded and their heads put on a spike in front of the White House, like it's some Viking stuff, like it's a Viking country. And it takes Facebook 10 hours. Oh, Facebook, the hypocrisy that you have. And I do mean the hypocrisy that you have, because there's no excuse for that. It's almost as if Zuckerberg does not want to admit that he still holds on. In the same sense, I say the same thing about Twitter. Twitter has had multiple chances to ban Donald Trump. They never have. I mean, maybe when he's not president anymore, they might do it. But I said the same thing. It is amazing what some people are allowed to say. It was kind of funny where one guy sat there and said, I forgot where it was said, where he told a white person, I am not allowed to lash out in a violent rage. That is a white man's indulgence. Oh, Giancarlo Esposito from The Boys. That's where he said that. I had to think about that. One of my favorite actors. He did say that in The Boys in character. He sat there and said, I forgot the exact line. Me as a black man, I don't have the privilege of lashing out in anger and expect no consequences. That's a white man's indulgence. And I thought to myself, that was one of the greatest lines, and actually true lines. Even more so, that it just seems that, hey, if you're white, you got no problems. But if you're any color, but if you're brown and you say stuff, we got to mute you. Again, Facebook, I wouldn't be surprised if you muted this podcast, because I've sat there and said multiple things, and yet, if we're still live, great. If not, we'll be on YouTube until YouTube decides to get this way. But again, switching gears for a second, guys, like I said, I want to talk about the fact, like I said, concerned about extreme right-wing groups. This was the plot. Keep in mind, there's still an ongoing case about a group of militia group that wanted to not only kidnap the governor of Michigan, they wanted to turn around and pull a Mad Max.
In Michigan, prosecutors claim the alleged extremist plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer actually went much further, including an alleged plan to burn down the state capitol. Authorities saying the hope by those behind the plot was that no one would come out alive. Here's ABC's Adrian Bankert now.
Tonight, new disturbing details of that alleged kidnapping plot show that Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer was only one alleged target of suspected homegrown terrorists who were planning to violently overthrow the state government. Court documents claim the alleged ringleader, Adam Fox, sought to recruit 200 men to storm the Capitol building and televise the execution of politicians taken hostage over the course of about 1 week, with no one coming out alive. Investigators say a second alleged plan involved locking people inside the building and setting it on fire. Authorities releasing video of some of the suspects firing guns in a makeshift boot camp. ABC News visited an alleged training site raided by the FBI with one of the suspect's neighbors.
There were many times that me and my wife, we would hear gunshots, and it sounded like automatic weapons. You can hold the trigger and it goes, brrr, and I've heard that. And I've heard explosives going off.
Of the 14 suspects taken into custody on state and federal charges, 2 appeared in court today seeking bond reductions. Defense attorneys for some of the suspects have claimed the alleged plot was nothing more than a lot of big talk.
And David, a judge did decide today to reduce bond for those 2 suspects. 6 suspects remain in custody facing federal charges. David?
All right, Adrian Bankert tonight.
Let's think about that for a second. An extreme militia group. I'm not going to say right wing, but let's be honest. Trump does incite this. But again, the simple fact of the matter is, this group was not only planning to go after the governor, but to go after elected officials in a, how can I put this ever so nicely, in a jihad-style takeover. It's amazing. It's amazing how these are the same people that said against jihad and said, oh, well, we saw people get beheaded. We saw them bomb places. We saw them do all this stuff. And yet adapt the same tactics. I'm just saying. Even more so, that how is it that they're not being charged as actual homegrown terrorists? I mean, being white only protects you for so long, but nothing. It's like you just admitted that you were going after an elected governor. You were going to go kill an elected government official and others in government buildings, and you were doing homegrown terrorism acts. How are you not being tried as terrorists is beyond me. Even more so that two other people actually got a reduction in bonds. If anything, I'm sorry. If you did terrorist actions, you don't get bail. I mean, that should be the rule. You don't get bail at all, personally. But I just found that crazy that they did get 2 of them got bail reductions, and then the whole defense of it all was, oh, they were just talking. They were talking shit. They weren't really gonna do it. Really? They looked like they were armed, and don't get me wrong, I am a gun person, I own guns, but at the same time, you don't see me loading up and trying to go for the state capitol. Again, there's talk and there's action, and we've seen what happens when groups are left to their own devices. That's why I said some of these militia groups definitely do need to be watched, and we do need to admit that the most dangerous person in the U.S. right now is a white domestic terrorist. I think we need to admit that, and I'm pretty sure that's going to probably get me banned from Facebook for saying that. But moving right along, guys, like I said before, I've said before about COVID-19, like I said before about masks and things of that nature, and honestly, we need to be careful because, as I've said before, COVID-19 has definitely not disappeared, and things are starting to look a little bit bad.
After shattering another record for daily infections, tonight more Americans than ever are hospitalized with COVID. Across the nation, medical centers are on the brink, and doctors like David Chancelm are overwhelmed.
Hospitals are getting fuller and fuller and fuller.
Inside his Oklahoma City ICU, he shows us what it takes to keep COVID patients alive.
Look how many pumps. This is one patient.
But with cases climbing in 48 states, hospital capacity is an impending crisis. States like North Dakota and Wisconsin are crippled by demand and a shortage in staff.
We're heading towards the cliff. I don't know if the vaccine gets to us before we have horrible things happening here in Wisconsin.
At the beginning of September, Wisconsin was averaging 900 COVID cases a day. Now it's over 6,000. In New Jersey, where infections are skyrocketing, many still refuse to wear a mask.
You know what's really uncomfortable and annoying? When you die.
And the death toll is rising in 38 states. After the holidays, when infections are expected to explode, fatalities could also climb. Heather Edwards knows how quickly life can change.
It doesn't seem very real until it becomes a part of your life.
Doctors did everything they could to keep her healthy 22-year-old son Keegan alive.
Bless their hearts, they let us be there. And then we just had to let him go because there was nothing else to do.
Tonight, COVID's devastating impact on one family, shared by far too many others across the nation. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
And Miss Tanya, you're right. People are ignorant. It's the thing about it is, guys, like I said before, COVID-19 is real. There is no ifs, ands, or buts beyond that. Even more so that, again, wearing a mask, it's like, here's the thing that I've always sat there and said. I've never understood how simple it is that if you tell an individual to wear a mask, that you could reduce. Now, I hear a lot. I've had this argument so many times. I've had this argument where people are like, well, masks don't do stuff. Yes, they do. Now, they won't prevent. Now, here's the thing about it, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. Masks do not prevent you from getting coronavirus. They reduce the risk of you coming in contact. And at the same time, if you have coronavirus and you're recovering, the masks also reduce the chance you will pass it on to somebody else. At the same time, it is amazing to me that people still argue. Here's the thing. It's like you had no problem wearing a KKK hood, but yet at the same time, you have an issue wearing a mask. If you wear a ball gag and with no issue, then you have no problem wearing a mask. If you wore a costume for Halloween, you have no problem wearing a mask. If you put on a costume or any type of performance art, which again covers your face, you have no problem wearing a mask. You simply don't want to because you say, for a simple fact of the matter, it hinders your freedoms, which it really does not. When you're at home, wear a mask. Don't wear a mask if you're at home. But if you're out and about among other people, it is no longer your personal choice because whatever you decide can't affect others just because you're in their vicinity. That's how decisions and consequences work. Even more so now that some states, because of how bad it's getting, are actually reconsidering lockdowns.
Rages. More cities and states are clamping down.
I'm announcing a 2-week freeze for the entire state.
Oregon and New Mexico are among the latest states with sweeping new COVID restrictions. There are also new curfews in New Jersey and Minnesota. More schools are going online only in Kansas, Utah, and Idaho. And now New York City, the nation's largest school district, is considering doing the same next week.
For hopefully only a matter of weeks, and then bring them back after we've beaten back this problem.
Across the country, many states remain mostly open for business. Ohio's Republican governor may face legal challenges if he ends up closing bars, restaurants, and gyms next week. As for a national lockdown, for now, experts are recommending a more targeted approach.
I do not believe at this point that we do need to lock down. We have to leave that on the table.
This is the line for drive-through COVID testing outside a hospital in downtown Chicago. The city has reported more than 12,000 new COVID cases just this week. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who has issued a 30-day stay-at-home advisory, is urging people not to host any gatherings at all, including over Thanksgiving.
For us right now, the biggest risk that we're seeing in our city is in these private spaces and gatherings.
Some business owners are struggling without another round of federal stimulus. Do you feel like you're being unfairly targeted?
Yes, without a doubt.
Chef Brian Jupiter runs several restaurants and is now helping distribute food that would otherwise go to waste.
The restaurant industry as we know it is dead.
Tonight, across America, lives and livelihoods are on the line.
And honestly, we should have actually been in lockdown so long ago. And the reason why is because you want to know why the rest of the world is able to get to some sense of normalcy. It is because they were actually able to do full lockdown from Jump Street. They actually got online. I mean, think about this. China, Japan, most of Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and so many other places are actually almost back to low pandemic levels. And the reason why is because, well, everybody wore a mask. Everybody did social distancing. China actually had a lockdown where no one went to work. And I get it. I get it from the other side that you have to work because bills are still going to come in. You still got to pay to get food. You still got to pay to keep your lights on, stuff of that nature. That's only because we had an ineffective president who did not put in a mask mandate, which they should have done from Jump Street. It should have been a nationwide mask mandate. He shouldn't have sat there and said, Doritos shouldn't have sat there and said, well, leave it up to the governors. And the governors sat there and said, well, we leave it up to the counties. And it's like, it's amazing that no one wants to sit there and say, yes, we should all wear a mask. Now, don't get me wrong. Some Democrat governors did go forth and say, yes, there was a mask mandate that needs to be put in place. And the funny part is those governors that put in those mask mandates are the reasons why some of the counties in the United States and the states of the United States have lower numbers than everywhere else. I'll use Tennessee as an example. Governor Bill Lee is honestly an idiot. He is a Trump puppet. He has sat there and said many a times, and again with my home state of Tennessee, where he does not want to issue a mask mandate, he leaves it up to the counties. That is not leadership, ladies and gentlemen. That's literally passing the ball along and hoping to God it doesn't blow back on you. So, how do we actually do this? And you're right. You're right, Ms. Tanya. Our governor is too chicken to do another lockdown. You're exactly right. The thing about it is, though, I get it from the business side. Businesses have to run because their bills don't stop. In the same way, like a person has to decide whether or not to work because their bills don't stop. The simple fact of the matter is the ineffective of the current administration to make sure to keep people comfortably at home would have been the best route to actually get things done. But folks claim, well, I'm cooped up, I'm this, I'm that, I don't want to wear a mask, you're impeding upon my freedoms. And I think to myself, it's not impinging upon your freedoms. It is literally and figuratively you doing what you need to for us to get back to where we are. That's why I sit there and say, for all those that are working from home or are able to work from home, get used to being at home until 2022. Because at this rate, I don't see 2021. I see 2021 being better just because, well, let's be honest, sometime in January, Trump will no longer be with us. But as far as the COVID situation, unless the president-elect and vice president-elect make the hard choices, issuing a mask mandate, maybe having a lockdown, maybe actually, really enforcing these laws, and in really just, making sure that businesses and things are taken care of during this COVID-19 situation, until those things are done, the actual cases won't reduce. Because the funny part was, once we start doing this lockdown, because downtown Nashville at one point, like I said, my state of Tennessee, downtown Nashville was actually locked down for going on 3 months. What they noticed before they started issuing this slow reopening was cases were dropping. We did not have that many COVID cases once lockdown measures were put in place. Once Broadway, of course, like I said, if I could show a picture of Broadway right now, I'm almost certain it's packed with people, and not all of them are wearing masks, and none of them are doing social distancing. If you looked at a bar somewhere in Nashville, I guarantee it's full. But they might have social distancing, but it's not enough anymore. That's why I'm sitting there saying these are the same people that turn around and wonder how they got COVID-19. Easy, genius. You didn't follow the instructions. I would love to go back in the outside world too, but at the same time, not at the expense of the elderly and younger children who are most susceptible to the virus. Because let's be honest, you could be asymptomatic, carry the coronavirus, and you may not be sick yourself, but you possibly could get the chance of infecting someone else. And honestly, that should be a thought when we go in our heads when people sit there and say they want to wear a mask. Even more so, like this one right here. I use this as a simple example. Congresswoman-elect Marjorie Greene, who, if you don't know who she is, she's the one that actually supports the QAnon conspiracy theory about, and trust me, they're all theories made by Nut. She's actually one of the newest freshmen to be elected to the next Continental Congress, where she sat there and says, and I quote, our first session of the new member orientation covered COVID in Congress. Masks, masks, masks. I proudly told my freshman class that masks are oppressive. In Georgia, we work out, we shop, we go to restaurants, we go to work and school without masks. My body, my choice. Hashtag free your face. I literally cannot make that up. She sat there. I mean, this is a. Let me be honest with you guys. Oh, hi, Edward. How's it going, man? Let me be honest with you guys. For the simple fact of the matter, let's think about this for a second. She sat there and said, I proudly told my freshman class that masks are oppressive. She's an elected government official now. That alone should be effing scary. That an elected official who thinks this way, that alone should be effing scary. And at the same time, amazingly ignorant. Because again, she says my body, my choice, and yet she's a part of the same Republican group that'll turn around and limit a woman's body, limits a woman's choice simply because they believe they know better about her. They know better about a woman's body than she does. This alone should be effing scary. That's all I'm going to say. But aside from that, like I said, moving forward, guys, I just got a couple more stories before we get to our feel good segment. Another story I found interesting, because I always want to go after Amazon, where a black Amazon worker had filed a lawsuit saying that they racially discriminated against him and put fellow people of color at risk as they worked during the COVID-19 pandemic just because they did not apply the proper testing. People were not being scanned for temperatures on the way in. At the same time, they were not giving proper PPE equipment to protect themselves. Amazon's response to this, because he used to be a former supervisor, but he brought it up to the higher desk, and they turned around and sat there and said, well, we didn't listen, and eventually he was fired because they said that he had a responsibility of protecting his workers and things of that nature. But they said that, of course, keep in mind, this is Amazon. They sat there and said, and we quoted, "We terminated Mr. Smalls for putting the health and safety of others at the risk in violation of terms of his employment. He received multiple warnings for violation of social distancing guidelines. He was found to have close contact with a diagnosed officiate with a confirmed case of COVID-19 and was asked to remain home with pay for 14 days. Despite that instruction, he came on site, putting other teams at risk." Now, I will say this about Amazon. Yes, they probably made a shitload of money during this entire time of everybody being at home and ordering things. I know, I've ordered my computer parts and multiple things from there. Amazon, from an economic standpoint, is making a killing. Jeff Bezos is arguably the richest man on earth. However, the company and its tactics remind me very much of Walmart. Walmart itself is a retail giant, and in some places, I wish I could stop shopping at Walmart, but Walmart is the only option in most places because most mom and pop stores were actually losing out to Walmart just because they've learned that bulk prices at cheap items were the best way to go to get people's attention, and they eventually closed out the mom and pop grocery stores. The idea that they're also treating the workplace, keep in mind, this is not the only time we've heard Amazon workers, really complain and try to unionize and do all this stuff. And let's be honest, most corporations these days hate the word union, because union means that they're forced to actually take care of workers. That's why I sit there and say, if there's a union wherever you're at, then you definitely need to join it. There are no ifs, ands, or buts to it. In the more sense that unions do help. Unions are the reason why you have a 40-hour work week. Unions are the reason why you have in some areas, why you have sick leave, why you have insurance, things of that nature. All of it was done through collective bargaining, through unions that are slowly disappearing because, let's be honest, corporations hate them. And the more reason Amazon, whenever they heard of union, I mean, even when I was working at Dell so many years ago, Michael Dell, who's still a dick in my opinion, he hated the word union. It was actually said through management. Keep in mind, through management to us, because we were working in a call center situation. They sat there and said, if Michael Dell ever heard the word union uttered at a center, he would make a call to have that center shut down and its services transferred somewhere else. If there is talk of a union. Think about this. The CEO of once a great company turned around and sat there and said if he heard his employees talking about a union, that he would fire them. That alone should tell you a lot about where we are in the world, where we are in the country, when unions are, unions used to be a necessity. Now they're just a corporate word in which if corporations hear that, they panic. And that's the thing that's just completely messed up about it. But the last thing I got, guys, like I said before, we get to our feel good news segment. Like I said, it's the holiday season, and let's be honest, it really is. I mean, we won't give Thanksgiving I mean, we're not too far off from Thanksgiving, but let's be honest, Thanksgiving never gets the shine that Christmas does. And if you're like me, yeah, you're gonna do early Christmas shopping for your loved ones. But again, I just found this interesting, and like I said, this is unregulated capitalism at its finest. That the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, like I said, I'm a gamer, so I was looking forward to these systems. Of course, not this year, just because, like I said before, when new consoles come out, I always have a rule. I never buy the first batch for the new system. That's just the way I am. Just because they're usually riddled with problems, things of that nature. They're always short in stock, and you're always paying a boatload of money just to get one. And of course, the other reason why I don't buy the first batch is because of stuff like this. Like the screen you're seeing right now. And honestly, that's actually, I went back before I started this broadcast, and it's still there. That retailers have sold out of both consoles. But if you go on to sites like Amazon, if you go on to sites like eBay, I think there's another one. I forgot what the other sites are called, Pay Forward or Post It or what. I had to remember those other sites. I am so sorry, guys. But let's just use this for example right here. There actually is a listing on eBay for a PS5, which look at the price. The price alone, $32,000. And it is amazing to me that resellers, that people who were able to get these consoles, and trust me, they've gotten more than one. And this is just your usual, this is your capitalism at its finest. That retailers, people who actually bought from retailers or bought online, and they bought them in bulk. Trust me, there was not a limit on how many systems they could buy. Are turning around, and you're seeing them pop up on these bidding sites and even on Amazon for 4 or 5 or even 10 times or even more as much as they're worth. And I thought that was crazy. Where you see one where it's at $32,000, and the messed up part about that. Here's the thing about it. The messed up part about all that. Somebody's going to pay it. That's the messed up part. Somebody who wants a system so bad is going to wind up paying it. Now, I'm not sure they're going to pay $32,000, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised. But with that being said, guys, like I said, we're going to go ahead and move on to our Feel Good News segment because, like I say here on How the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of news. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's really dark, and sometimes it's full of doom and gloom. But it's the weekend, and I have no idea how it is outside. I'm pretty sure it's cold because, like I said, winter is coming. But hopefully, like I said, if you're off this weekend, we need something that's bright. We need something that's going to perk us up. Make us feel good about the world, even though some fact of the matter is it's a little hard to right now. So hopefully these next couple of stories that I have here will do just that. So I want to start with this one because, like I said before, I think the simple fact of the matter, when humanity comes together, I think we do great things. It's amazing this wonderful group of people who eventually did catch coronavirus, who were a part of the pandemic, and the family had caught it and thankfully beaten it, had turned around and decided to turn their restaurant into a soup kitchen. Even more so that even though they're helping serve paying customers, they're actually serving those who have lost their jobs, who lost heat or gas or just can't work or can't feed their kids. I love the fact that they have that sign right there. No deportations, because it's a family of immigrants. These immigrants do own a business in New York that actually does help to serve the community. At the same time, they want to make people feel safe. And you're probably wondering, well, this is a small business. Why did they not get the loan from the Paycheck Protection Program? Well, there's a reason for that. It's because part of that stupid ruling in the Paycheck Protection Program is that you have to be a U.S. citizen. And fortunately, immigrant status does not qualify. That alone should tell you a lot that small business loan thing, that payment protection check program that they have, is really bullshit. But at the same time, these people have actually did make it work, and as you can see, these are pictures here where they've actually put meals together, actually done clothing, supplies, and take-home things to give to people in need. And I've been saying this before, that to me is great, that when you have people out there that will literally and figuratively take it upon themselves to help others, that's pretty cool. Now, I always love finding these next stories because, like I said before, I think this is pretty cool. I do play lottery. I do. I play lottery because you never know. You never know that you might win that $1 million, and I'm sorry, I'll be happy with $5 million. I don't need 100. I don't need, this, that, and the other. I don't. It'd be nice though. it would be nice. I'm not gonna lie. It would be nice though. But at the same time, I don't really need that much to really get by. That being said, I always sit there and say, like, I'm like, guys, we're no different. We've all had that dream of, playing the lottery and you winning, and now all of a sudden your income tax bracket has changed. Possibilities are open. You might be able to quit that job that you don't like. You might be able to go into early retirement and make sure that your family's taken care of. You're breaking generational curses, if you will. That's the thing. I said I love seeing stories like that, and so therefore I wanted to bring this story up. For the simple fact of the matter, 4 hospital workers became millionaires after winning the lottery. And of course, one of them says, I feel like I'm in a dream. Of course, these 4, and I love the fact that these are nurses. Nurses who decided to pull their money together and decided to play the lotto in overseas in British Columbia, in which they won. And the funny part where she says, I thought it was $6,000. Turned out it was $6 million. And the thing about it is, they plan to celebrate with a nice meal together and then split their winnings. And of course, one of them actually was so charitable that they said they may donate some of their winnings to the Royal Columbian Hospital Foundation, which actually helps to develop nurses and things of that nature overseas. And one of them just sat there and said, I called my boss. I told him I was going to take the day off. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. If y'all don't understand, let me go ahead and let me say this, because I want this on recording. If I ever won the lottery, this is going to become my personal. This is going to become my person. This is going to become my private. I can't even say the word. This is going to become my permanent job. Let me tell you something. If I ever come into money, whether by inheritance, like some rich uncle I didn't know about, or if I won the lottery, or if I won the lottery and I won enough substantial money, y'all don't understand. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna act a fool. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna act a fool. My job, woo, oh boy, I'm going to have the most epic send-off, and I do mean epic send-off, about my job. Ooh, I'm hopping on the first. When cruise lines become safe again, I'm hopping on the first cruise to whatever island is close that isn't in the middle of hurricane season. I cannot tell you. And like I said before, we daydream. We really do. We daydream about things like this. Like I said, I want to be able. Oh God. Like I'll tell you this one. I won't say everything that I'll do. But I'll say this. Student loans. Let me. I'm sorry. I apologize. Student loans. I will be this petty. I will go get the amount of what I owe in student loans in pennies, and then send it by truck to the student loan people with a note that says, "Here it is. Have fun counting." You guys don't understand. I mean, some people be like, well, why don't you just write a check and send them off to them and be done with it? No. Because we understand. I understand the whole idea of writing a check for set amount would be great. I am not arguing that. But let me tell you something. There is something immediately satisfying about telling those sons of bitches, here's your money in pennies. I feel bad for the people that have to count those pennies. But at the same time, you have your amount in pennies, because that's how I feel about student loans. And I know that it's petty. I apologize. I know I should be an adult and write a check, but there's a part of me that's going to go straight evil, which is probably why I don't win the lottery, because, money brings out the true you. Let's just be honest. But it's not like, I even told my girlfriend. I told my girlfriend, if one of us ever wins the lottery, we go on vacation. I mean, just right then and there. It's like, okay, you won. Check cleared. Cool. We out. We'll come back. We'll come back in a couple of weeks. I told my girlfriend that. I told her, I was like, we'll just leave. I mean, I hear Jamaica's nice. I hear Italy. We might even go to Greece. She wants to go to Greece. I'm like, we'll just go to Greece. I hear it's nice there. I like the food. Love the mythology. But no, I'm really getting away from myself, guys. But I'm sorry. I'm really getting away from myself. But like I said, I just love seeing stories like that because, good things need to happen to good people. At the same time, I like the fact that, it does change people's lives for the better. And like I said, I might actually wind up playing the lottery because, hey, you never know. The last two stories I got, guys, was really, this one is funny because, let's be honest, kids, when you teach them stuff, it doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go. And I always imagine myself as a parent, would I laugh about this? Or would I be like, yeah, that's my child. I'll just play the video and let you guys see it.
Would you like a little boost?
I do. I have a sweet one for you. I got one. As many of you know, the Lord's Prayer, or the Our Father, is one of the central prayers for Christians, and it contains the line, "Hallowed be thy name." But one little girl, she heard it a little differently. Take a listen.
Sarah. Huh? What is God's name?
Howard.
Who?
Howard.
Howard? How do you know his name is Howard?
Because?
Because what?
Our Father and Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Who?
Hallowed be thy name.
Howard be thy name?
Hallowed be thy name.
I mean, it's obvious. Come on. Now, the next time you hear that prayer, are you going to remember this little girl? Yeah, the Howard be thy Howard name. Be thy name. I love that. And good for her. She knows the Lord's Prayer already.
Howard be thy name. It's funny to me. I mean, the little girl's adorable. Don't get me wrong. This is why I sit there and say I am so worried. I'm so worried as a future parent that God will sit there and say, I'm going to give you girls. And I have said this, I've said this amongst my friends. I've said this to my girlfriend. I have said this to my own family members. I don't know. I said I would be happy. I mean, I would be happy with a child regardless, whether it's a boy or a girl. But if it's a girl and she's that adorable, I'm going to be like, I'm going to be screwed, number one. Because I know how to handle boys. Boys, I get. I truly get. Girls, honey, if you're watching this, that's going to be your detail. Because I won't know what to do. Everything will be cute to me. I can't sit there and tell her no, especially if she looks like that little... Especially, honey, if you give me a little girl like that, if we have a little girl like that and she's cute, what? I'm done. I'll be looking at you like, so do I punish her? Or... I'll be honest. That has always been the thought in the back of my mind because, like I said, I do want to be a parent one day. But it's always interesting, like I said before, little girls do stuff like that. And it's funny where the mom's like, what do you know that from? Howard. Howard be... So the funny part is, this is the part where I thought was interesting. It's like, the little girl, straight serious, Howard. Howard be thy name. And you want to stop her and go, it's hallowed. And I can see her going, that's what I said, Howard. I don't know. I don't know how to put this. I don't. It's funny to me. And Kelly, why are you making those faces? I meant what I said. But I just thought that was funny as all get out, just because, I mean, the little girl was straight serious. Even more so, like I said, about, daddy and daughters, which I think is kind of funny. I thought this one was cool too, about a father that actually, didn't get into sewing until, his daughter came along.
How did you get into sewing? It started by seeing my sister sew. She would take sweatshirts and hoodies and replace the sleeves with the African and Ankara fabric. I was like, I think I want to do this, and then just decided to just go for it.
Philadelphia native and self-taught dressmaker Michael Gardner has been sewing dresses and outfits for his 9-year-old daughter Ava since she was just 3 years old.
Ready?
Yeah. How did Daddy Dress Me come about?
One day took her out and said, I'm going to take pictures of you. I mean, she just started doing poses and had a little walk, and I was like, okay, this can actually be something.
That something was Daddy Dressed Me by Michael Gardner, a fashion content brand and social media campaign featuring Michael's daughter Ava wearing the designs they collaborated on.
Does she ever say, Dad, nah, it's not really my style?
She loves everything I create simply because it's, you know, it's her dad. He's not making her clothes. But there's a difference when I know she puts something on and she connects with it in a certain way.
Yeah.
There's a different confidence. There's a different attitude.
Michael's relationship with his daughter is much different than the way he grew up with an absent father.
I would never want her to experience, you know, the pain that I had growing up without a father, not having that support that, you know, every kid deserves.
But you knew your dad, right?
So yeah, I knew him, but he wouldn't like acknowledge me as his son. There were times I was in front of him saying, you know, hi, he wouldn't speak.
The trauma of not feeling worthy of his dad's acknowledgement has stuck with Michael into his adult years. Daddy Dressed Me is a way for Michael to provide his daughter Ava with a sense of strength and confidence that he missed out on in his childhood.
What was your reaction when you found out that you were going to be a girl dad?
The funny thing is I wanted a boy first. It makes total sense looking back on it now for me to have a daughter with how I am.
You ready to do this?
Yes.
Michael's created more than 200 outfits for Ava over the last 6 years. His fiancée, Tamar, recently surprised him with a poster chronicling all of his designs.
She felt like I needed to see all that I had done, and I just burst into tears.
Why?
You get into the habit and the rhythm of just doing it, and you don't necessarily take enough time to fully acknowledge what it is that you're doing.
Ava and Michael have also taken the Daddy Dressed Me brand to TikTok with creative daddy-daughter dance videos.
Ava, what is it about your dad that makes him special?
His sewing, his smile, his care, his love.
Sometimes when you're out and you guys are wearing a matching outfit, I would imagine sometimes people might ask about it?
We do, a lot.
And what do you say?
I told them that Daddy made it.
Ava, he told me that he also does your hair and your nails sometimes too.
He just did my nails, and yesterday he did my hair too.
You've got a live-in fashion designer, hairstylist, and nail stylist.
I feel rich.
I thought that was cool. Miss Diane, will you make clothes for her too? No, I will make clothes. I will go buy her clothes. I will buy her clothes, but me sewing. I'm not gonna lie, my sewing skills could use some work, and I mean use some work. And I mean that ever so hardly. My sewing skills to use some work. That girl can get clothes bought for her. I'm just gonna be honest about that. That's just no ifs, ands, or buts. But I do like the fact, like I said, he actually wanted to take more emphasis on his daughter. You know, making dresses and things for her, and you know, really showing her, like I said before. A father's impression on a little girl makes so much more, because for a lot of women out there, they actually do look for a man that's similar to what their father instilled in them. So I mean, that girl's gonna be great. I think that girl's gonna be a fashion designer. And of course with the designs by Dad, it is actually a brand. I like the fact, like I said, I love the fact that I'm seeing. Even in this epidemic, you're seeing more black entrepreneurs come forward and really show what they can do in different avenues. So I've always said it best. Black people are magical. We truly are. But that's all that I got, guys, for this podcast. I thank everybody for watching, for liking, for sharing a video, or sharing the video, or starting this video, because like I said, not sure if Facebook has banned us by now, but I'm pretty sure they're going to eventually. But this is also playing on YouTube as well. I do want to thank my wonderful girlfriend Kelly for the intro. If you did not see the intro, this is actually what's going to be playing from here on out at the beginning of my shows.
Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all.
I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion, and that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
Yes, so thank you, Kelly, because she made that intro, and actually I love it. And I will be using it from run out. Like I said, it's the whole thing of just trying to actually put stuff together. And like I said, before I do get here, I do have some shameless promotions. I do have a buddy of mine who is also watching this, and hopefully he is feeling better. I'm talking about my buddy Big BZA Vaughn on Facebook. Big BZA on Facebook. You should get to know him. You should get to like him. You should get to add him. Why? Because you'll be able to go to his Facebook page like I did, go to his video section, and be able to see all the podcasts that he's done. What podcast, you might ask? I'm glad you did. He actually has one called the BSTs, or the Intercast. Now, what is the BSTs or Intercast? Well, similar to me. He likes to go over news. That news could be music, video games, that could be trailers, things that he likes to show. Because to me, he's also, like myself, is a big ass kid. Now, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that we are grown men. We do handle our stuff. We handle our responsibilities. But we haven't let go of the fact. The simple fact of the matter is just that, we just cannot get away from the fact that things we want as kids. So as you can see, he is, in this case, this was actually just a couple of days ago, where he actually goes over the PlayStation PS5 and things of that nature and gives his opinion. Don't worry about it. He's medical. If you're wondering about what's in his hand. But as you can see, that it's an interactive show because like I do, I usually go on there and I comment, and you should be able to do the same thing too. Now, aside from the BST, he also has the Random as Fuck podcast. What is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is that pool of wretches we sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some bills make you think, some bills make you cry. They're always to a theme. He usually does it every Tuesday, but on this case, he did this on the 10th, I believe it was also a Tuesday. And of course, the theme of this one was fuck Donald Trump. And let's be honest, if you've heard that song and you see stuff like this, where you have Donald Trump supporters sitting outside the election office voting, as they're counting, they're praying to stop the counting of the votes at the time. Yes, it is stuff like that he finds relatable to this, even though he has the video of Kenneth Copeland, who has the most evilest laugh I've ever seen out of a Saturday morning cartoon villain. But Vaughn does cover it, and like I said, those are videos that are going to stick with you. I know that one will. And like I said, he always does it for the entertainment value, basically to reset your weeks on Tuesdays. Also, another show that he has, that we will also be doing by Zoom today, I have to check with Vaughn about this, is the Rhythmness podcast, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, in which Vaughn, myself, and a few others, we actually do listen to music, and we give our review of it. Now, keep in mind, me and Vaughn are not musical critics. He'll say it all the time, and at the same time, he is also one that, me and him are on different sides of the spectrum. So with that also being said, differences in taste always lead to great conversations in music, and we probably will be doing a Rhythmness podcast sometime today. But definitely check him out to see when that's going on. Aside from BSTs, Rhythmness, and Random as Fuck, he also has I'd call it a pop-up, how can I put this ever so nicely? I call it a pop-up masterclass, if you will. I say masterclass just because Vaughn turns around, and like I said, Vaughn is a music dude. He really is. And with that music that he makes, he is also a beat maker. And Falcon Around is basically his creative baby. He loves to show how he actually comes up with the beats and things of that nature from start to finish, to where you can see the finished product and also see his creative process, as you can see. I still don't know what the razor blade is doing right there, but I'm pretty sure one day he'll explain it. But he is also a guy, like I said before, a beat maker, if you will, a connoisseur of playing on the white keys, and like I said, from that simple fact of the matter, he just loves to show his progress. So, You can definitely check on his Facebook at BigBZA to see when he's actually doing this. Like I said, all of his videos can be found under his Facebook page at BigBZA and BigBZA on social medias. So if you like what I've seen so far, and trust me, you will not be disappointed, definitely look him up on Facebook, add him as a friend, and you'll be able to see all those videos that he has done so far. Now, as far as yours truly, I do have my own podcast. Every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m., I have the Burned Out Podcast. This is my IT storytelling podcast in which I tell 3 stories from my life as an IT person because, trust me, it's better than therapy. At the same time, I hope you find it funny. And if you do, that's great. And if not, then you need to lighten up anyway because I'm probably talking about you. But still, stories all the same. Aside from that, guys, I do have, of course, every Saturday, as you're currently watching right now from 10 a.m. to noon, is the How the Frack We Got Here podcast. A little bit later tonight, between 8 to 10 p.m., the Offense Podcast will return with a new episode. At Offense Podcast, we do talk about anything and everything, and I do mean anything and everything, because there are just some subjects that we just need to have a talk. We just need to talk about. There are some subjects that we need to actually bring to the light, and we cannot move forward as a people sitting there saying about these subjects are taboo or we can't talk about that. Bump that. If you're an adult, you can do it, and therefore we do it to move forward, and that's what the whole point of the podcast is all about. And of course, every Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. is the Get Bit podcast. That is the podcast, that's my Blurred podcast. And by Blurred, I mean it's a black person and a nerd. We cover video games because trust me, there has been a video game explosion this week. I plan to actually give my review of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, of Destiny 2 Beyond Light, of Spider-Man Miles Morales, and there's another one. I was hoping to get Godfall, but Godfall is actually a PS5 game. Unfortunately, I did not get a PS5 because, like I said, it goes back to rule number 1 of things I won't do. So we won't be able to review any PS5 games till I have a system. That's fine. You know, I'll live with that. But I will give my reviews of the 2 most released games. Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Spider-Man Miles Morales. I will give my reviews about that as well as Destiny 2 Beyond Light. And aside from video games, on Get Bit, we do cover, of course, sci-fi, cosplay, television shows, which are starting to come back now. Or I should say coming back now, filming. We will actually get back to that. And, of course, comics and things of that nature. Like I said, the world of pop culture is really what we cover. But it is a show for blurs and nerds to enjoy, so hopefully you guys can tune in then. All of my shows can be found under my Facebook page at William Buchanan or on their own Facebook and YouTube pages. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, just look them up by their names. You can look them up by the Burned Out Podcast. You can look them up by How the Frack We Got Here. You can look them up by the Offense Podcast. And you can look them up by Get Bit, that is GITBIT, to see every podcast that I've done thus far. So, with that being said, guys, if you like what I did, please let me know. If you didn't like what I did, please let me know. We're just trying to make the platform better for everybody to enjoy. Hopefully, I did not run too long. I tried to kind of cap it off at an hour or so, where we're going to try to cap it off an hour because I know, some people can't just sit down and watch a whole hour and 30 minutes. Like I said, I'm long-winded, so sometimes I may talk a little bit too long, but we definitely will be better about shaving that down and really getting into a enjoyable format. Aside from that, guys, like I said, COVID-19 is real. Please wear a mask. Please go out only if you have to. Please avoid large crowds. Simple fact of the matter. And also, if you are sick, please stay at home. If you're self-quarantine is the best thing you can do. And if you are feeling extremely sick, please go to the ER and get help. COVID-19 has taken almost 200,000 lives. 200,000 lives and counting. Now, I understand that a vaccine is out there. It may actually get administered, but for now, we must do what we can to reduce these cases and reduce the stress on our hospitals and hospital and medical services and systems and personnel. Speaking of personnel, if you see a doctor, a nurse, nurse's aide, doctor's aide, environmental people that work in the hospitals, simply, if you get a chance, and I say if you get a chance, say thank you to them. They obviously, they don't get enough praise. They really don't. Just like educators, they don't get enough praise for what they do. They don't, get all the things that they need, and yet they're still making the choice to come to work to assist and care for sick people at risk of catching the virus themselves and possibly spreading it to their loved ones. So if you see a nurse or doctor, nurse's aide, doctor's aide, person that works in the hospital, just simply say thank you, because they're really making a choice to put their lives on the line to save others. But also, that being said, guys, also thank an essential worker. Actually be nice to essential workers. Not only say thank you, but just try to be nice, because I'm talking about those that are truck stop drivers, grocery and gas station attendants, those that work in warehouses, those that work in retail, those that work in logistical service like United States Postal Service, FedEx, UPS, DHL, all of them, including those that work in Amazon. Thank you, and just say thank you and be nicer to them. Because like I said, you might have the ability to work from home, and that's all well and good, but they have to make a choice to come in and work just because they have to keep the wheels going, the lights on for the rest of us for us to be comfortably at home. Honestly, don't try to be a dick, but try to be understanding, be nicer, and just say thank you. Simply put. But the last thing I'll say about how the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We're not about trying to influence you. We're not about trying to persuade your opinion. We're not trying to bring you to our way of thinking. We are simply presenting the facts to you in plain Jane form for you to be informed and make up your own mind. Because the world does a lot better when we're informed. Our society does a lot better than when we're informed. You know what happens when we're uninformed? We get Trump. That's honesty. We get Trump in 4 years of the Dark Ages. So, an informed community can do a lot better than an uninformed one for the reasons I explained, and that's how the Frack We Got Here. Again, guys, thank you all for watching, and if you're watching this live, if you're watching this on the playback, feel free to go ahead and comment live. I still want to know you guys' opinion on everything, and aside from that, be safe, have a wonderful Saturday, and hopefully see you later today for Off Limits Podcast. Aside from that, guys, I've been Lee Buchanan. This has been how the Frack We Got Here. Peace.